Nigeria Info. .3 Nigeria Info, fantastic morning to you. Again, if you're just joining the show, well, it's your bad because you missed out on 2 full hours, but you're in time for the last hour, and it is a very, very good day to be alive, I tell you. It's the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and for the next hour, this will be our conversation.
That's right. A very lovely morning to you. If you're just joining us, you're welcome. It's a morning Crossfire. As you know, we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter as well. If you'd like to be a part of this conversation on those socials, feel free to join us. On Twitter, it's at Nigeria Info FM on Twitter. On Facebook and YouTube, it's Nigeria Info 99.3. That is Nigeria Info 99.3. Feel free to drop your comments there with the hashtag Morning Crossfire. That is hashtag Morning Crossfire. Our phone lines are very active. We'll be opening up the phone lines in a moment because what we have brought forward today is quite important, quite germane. And you know Nigeria Info, we're on the forefront when you talk about, emancipation of the girl child, the protection of women, what rape culture is doing in our society, and what have you. Our WhatsApp line will be unleashed for the full benefit of you being a part of the program this morning. WhatsApp line is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805. And you're welcome to the show.
All right. Today is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. This happens every 25th of November, and it's an United Nations Day designed to highlight the issues of violence against women and girls and to call for more action to combat it. The theme for this year, very interesting theme, ordering the word Generation Equality Stands Against Rape. Generation Equality Stands Against Rape. From today, November 25, and of course, for the next 2 years, there is a campaign by the UN Secretary General's Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign, which will then focus on the issue of rape as a specific form of harm committed against women and girls in times of peace and in times of war. This 2-year campaign aims to raise the issues of consent, rape as a weapon of war, and the comprehension around assisting survivors. If you check out research today, you see a report done on the 22nd of November this year, just last week. And if I quote a part of that report, it shows it's done by the Forbes, by the way, says 1 in 3 women and girls experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. 1 in 3 women and girls experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetime, most frequently by an intimate partner. Worldwide, almost 750 million women and girls alive today were married before their 18th birthday. 200 million women and girls have undergone female genital mutilation. 1 in 2 women killed worldwide were killed by their partners or family members as of 2012. While only 1 out of 20 men were killed under similar circumstances. If you're trying to compare, 71% of all human trafficking victims worldwide are women and girls, and 3 out of 4 of these women and girls are sexually exploited. So you can see that we have a big issue on our hands. Many people ask, why do we focus on women? Because the stats show that it's tipped against the women, and we have to balance this and make things even out. If you're just joining us, remember that we're live on Facebook and YouTube, where you can watch us live right now. You can also join us on WhatsApp 0295975805. We have joining us in the studio this morning Miss Harriet Thompson. She's a British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos. Good to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. We also have Peju Fadirekpo. She's a producer of a movie which addresses the issues of sexual violence against women and girls, and the movie is called Chat Room. Peju, good to have you in here.
Thank you very much, Wemimo.
Good morning. And Rotimi Sankore is also here with us. Rotimi.
Morning.
Do I say another good morning to you? It's been here all morning. Good morning again. I'm Wemimo Adewuni. You're welcome.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. It's good to start. Let's start with Miss Harriet. Miss Harriet, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, how has this improved or increased the awareness when we talk about gender-based violence in the society today?
So it's so important that we do this every year. We have 16 focus days where right across the world, lots of people from all walks of life make a real effort to highlight these issues that are so relevant right here in Nigeria, but across the world as well. And we just heard from Wemimo some of the horrifying statistics, frankly, worldwide, the situation that women and girls face. So we use these 16 days to go on marches, to speak on the media and radio, as we're doing this morning, using social media, traditional media, discussions, lectures, etc., to really raise awareness of these issues. And I think when people hear the statistics, they're shocked. And the more we talk about this, the more likely we are to be able to change social norms, so that it becomes socially unacceptable. And let's face it, the reason that the statistics are so high at the moment is because too many people think it's okay.
Oh, wow.
Too many. Actually, I totally agree with you. And I mean, you've been in Nigeria for a while, and there we have these strong cultural issues. Let me shock you. I saw a tweet yesterday. So social media is a place where people tell you the real things on their minds. And someone put up a message and said something about helping a woman who just gave birth. And a guy came there, and said such horrifying things and said, well, why does a woman need special care? She just had a baby. Her hands are not, she can still work as well as every other person. Why does she need to have a leave? Why does she need help in the house? So there's a strong cultural issue in Nigeria and also in Africa. Some of these challenges are still very much there. Like you rightly said, many people still think it's okay. Is it possible to challenge these very strong cultural biases?
I think it is. So let's think about Nigeria specifically. There's a long way to go, right? Nigeria is 133 out of 149 in the Global Gender Gap Index.
That's horrible.
In 2018, so right down at the bottom. And that's despite there being so many strong female role models here in Nigeria, women playing such an important part at home, but also outside of the home. So the vast majority of micro businesses run by women, and yet still Nigeria is right down there at the bottom of the pile, towards the bottom of the pile at least. However, we do see things are changing. So that's why I think that this 16 days is so important, because gradually, and it will be gradual, it takes a long time to achieve social change, but the more attention we can bring to these issues, the more things can change.
But like Wemimo said, cultural norms are there. We've been battling it decades and decades, our grandfathers, great-grandfathers. But let's track back to the days, in the past where we had women leading the battle, women fighting, women struggling, and all of a sudden, all of these things disappeared. And now, it's quite conflicting, in my view, as to what happened to the women of the old, and where did the change start from? Who changed the norm then? Because it looked like the norm. We had all the great women in our literature. We heard the stories. They broke down boundaries. They conquered lands in the days of the old. So where did that change start? Who changed the norm? Because if you ask me, I would say that was the norm. Women taking the lead. All of a sudden, women are no more in the front.
Well, I will not say women are no more in the front, but they are not breaking barriers like they used to. And this goes down to our cultural issues and the family unit. Growing up, they tell you your place is in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I was speaking to, funny enough, it was my son. And I told him to sweep the floor. And he said, I'm not a girl. I said,
what?
"Who
Where's
told
that
you
coming
that?
from?"
Where did you get that from? Did I tell you that in school? Come on, go get the broom and sweep this floor for me. The family unit is extremely critical. And
Right.
unfortunately, my mother told me to take care of the kitchen. Well, my brother didn't get so much of a leeway, but there are so many homes that the men only know how to boil water. And they
And
don't
that
do,
will be the electric kettle. Just plug it in.
you know, that kind of thing. So I think it is critical for the homes to take the lead in empowering the girls.
Well, for the homes to take the lead, the parents would have to believe that this is what should happen, and we
Both parents.
both parents would have to believe so. Because if they don't, then they would have to pass on what they know to the children. So how do we reach these parents?
So for the parents, I'll speak to education, girl-child education. Ignorance is a major challenge. So many women do not know what is right and what is wrong. And so they just pass on the ignorance to their children. It is extreme. It takes an empowered woman to empower our girls. It takes a knowledgeable woman to pass on that. You cannot give what you do not, what you do not have. So that is extremely, extremely critical. And that goes back to how all these issues are intertwined.
Yeah.
If I am ignorant, I can't do any better.
Right. Rotimi, yesterday was a commemoration of the Aba women's riots, and I went reading up about it. Like, Sheriff said, women were at the forefront, and someone did a breakdown saying it looks like a colonial thing to try break the women who were leading the forces in the marketplace, in the commercial centers. They were the force to reckon with, especially in the southeast. And somehow it looks like, women now take the second seat. Somehow women have now somehow they feel this is where they should be, being second fiddle. How can we change this perspective all over again?
First, can we call it the Aba Women's Protest?
Well, it still goes.
The 10-minute riots it was a device by the states at the time to delegitimize the protest.
Very true.
Which brings us to the role of the state in this, because anywhere there are systematic forms of violence against women that are widespread, it often has state cover. And it happens mostly where patriarchy has captured the states. In any country where patriarchy has been separated from the state, women have more protection. So, for instance, we've talked about forced child marriage, which more or less, forget the so-called marriage there, even if it is an inverted comma. That's more or less official cover for sexual and labor exploitation of minors.
Right.
We have to be clear here. Sexual and labor exploitation of minors. That's
it's no marriage.
First child
It
marriage
can't be a
to
marriage
start with.
if you're not 18.
And it is state cover. Issues around domestic violence, what is called domestic violence, which in reality, is a situation in which your intimate partner that has professed to love you also thinks he has a right to beat you senseless as a means of social control, because that's what it is. It's not the work of the devil, it's not the person lost temper. It is social control. Beat you senseless so that you know that next time
he's in charge.
This is the line you cannot cross. If he says sit down there, and the state is complicit, because in a situation where if men do that, it is the state versus them. You see that it is reduced.
The state takes it up against them.
But if the state looks the other way, the police, the judiciary, they are just dancing around the matter, then it is also much stronger. And of course, things like female genital mutilation. You can see that anyone we go to, anywhere patriarchy has captured the state, it becomes a massive problem. So that's what we need to look at in in trying to deal with this. But of course, when we come to the theme of the 16 days, which is to end rape, there is actually more that we can do in terms of detail.
Let me stay with you on the violence. And somewhat the Nigerian law supports that a man can beat his wife as long as he does not cause bodily injury.
Serious
bodily injury.
Yes.
So the law actually supports
and that's the point
battery.
I'm making, that this is one of the most dastardly provisions of the penal code. Completely, I have never seen such insanity in my life. I mean, what does it mean that you can chastise as far as you don't do serious bodily harm? Once you do harm, you've done harm.
Right.
Who defines what is serious? I mean, this idea that girls and women are commodities, owned by men, and that you can mistreat, and that the law gives you cover. Honestly, when we talk about constitutional reform, this is one of the biggest areas that we have to address.
Aren't you worried that lawmakers have not seen this as priority? I mean, a law that supports battery.
Well, this is also why representation matters, because as we know, we say it here all the time, that Nigeria is at the bottom of women's representative, at the bottom of the table as far as women's representation in politics goes. Before the last election, Nigeria was 10th lowest in the world. After the last election, it went down 2 places, and it remains the lowest in Africa. So representation does matter, because you can't have this kind of National Assembly, in which just gender equality bill, you see them dancing around the matter. I've said here, during the last National Assembly, we went for the public hearing. All of us were seated. We were there for more than 1 hour, and then only 2 people then turned up, the chair of the committee and Dino. And then the chair came and announced bombastically that due to other pressing arrangements, the members of the committee were unable to turn up. Really, something that concerns half the population of the country that you are supposed to be representing, you have other pressing arrangements, and you invited us.
And then you decide that you can't show up. Let me throw in some more stats. Now, violence against women in Nigeria is pervasive, though we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. It looks like, so there's a stat here from the Nigeria Demographic and Health Survey of 2013 that shows that nearly 3 out of 10 Nigerian women have experienced physical violence by the age of 15. 3 out of 10 Nigerian women have experienced physical violence by the age of 15. Again, I'll say with you, Harriet, the place of policy and the place of the laws. Our laws, do you believe they're strengthened enough, to be able to really protect women?
No, I mean, we've just heard from Rotimi, then they are absolutely not up to it. So the ambition is in a good place. We have the Violence Against Prohibition Act. I'm glad that the UK government here in Nigeria was able to support the passage of that, and also now to translate that into state action plans against violence against women. But no, it's not enough. When we're in a situation where the law says it's okay to beat your wife as long as it doesn't leave a mark, that's not enough. And we need to remember that violence against women isn't just physical. It doesn't always leave a mark. It can be sexual, it can be mental, it can be humiliating your wife, it can be putting her down. There are many different forms that it can take. So the law needs strengthening. And one stat as well that I just need to put in at this point, 34% even of women believe it's okay for a husband to beat a wife. And that's where, that really demonstrates the impact of social norms when even women think it's okay for a husband to beat his wife.
You find a woman telling another who's just been beaten, what's the big deal? I mean,
he's your husband.
It's your husband. Why are you complaining?
There are actually places where it is worse than what Harriet has described. There are places in this world where more girls than boys think that it is justified for men to beat women under a given set of situations. And it really shows how dangerous socialization and indoctrination is. In fact, that's the biggest weapon against women's human rights, socialization and indoctrination, especially where it is backed by the state.
I agree. I think you need the laws to set the direction, and then you really need to work hard to change the social norms so that it's accepted, it's expected that those laws will actually be
That looks like a lot of
implemented.
work, and this is where you come in because you make movies. I want to tell us about your movies. So many of the Nigerian movies I see seem to emphasize these norms that we're trying to change. You see these theories repeated in the lines in the script. Even the actors believe, I kind of think that their personal lives, they believe it's okay to either harass or assault a woman, or violence against women, or even rape. Remember that there's nothing like marital rape in our laws. It doesn't exist. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. So this same thing translates into our movies. I hardly see our movies advocating for change in these spaces. They seem to teach us that it's okay. And people spend a lot of time entertaining themselves, but while they're being entertained, they're also learning that it's okay.
Well, that is where chatroom is different. So chatroom speaks to ensuring that you have your voice back. So many Nigerian women are voiceless. The movie is a story of hope. It's an inspiring story, and it encourages you to get your voice back. Speak your truth. And it is critical. Most women that have been abused, you find that first and foremost, talking about it is the first step towards even getting healing. She mentioned that violence against women is not just physical. I realized that most women really suffer from verbal abuse. They are being put down continually. Unfortunately, this even at times starts from mommy. And good-meaning, well-meaning aunties and uncles, our family unit is very extended. Right. But it is critical for you to own your story, say your truth. So chatroom is very entertaining. It stars award-winning actors like Akpororo is a comedian. So yes, it has all the elements of humor. It has the elements of romance. It has Sambasa and Zeribe. Has Omaomi Megbele. Has the AIDS broadcaster Adesuwa Onyenokwe. Right? So it's really a very, very entertaining film. But yet it also speaks to the fact that you should not take abuse lying down.
Rotimi, talking about taking abuse lying down, one of the biggest problems in this space of gender violence, gender-based violence, is speaking out. Speaking out. From the stats here, less than 40% of women who have gone through this actually speak out, which means we have more women not saying things, more women not saying how they feel, what happened, to them. And that's because it's always very difficult for them to pass through the stages of what do you do if I go to my house? What do you wear self? Why you not go rape you? This is so we have a bigger problem at our hands here because, like Pedro said, it begins from speaking out. How do we make sure that we make it easy for victims of gender-based violence to be able to come out and tell their story without being victimized by the people?
Right. If you look at the theme for the 16 days, which is to end rape,
Right.
the first thing that needs to be done really is to understand how law enforcement lets women down.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, we need more women police officers. The disproportionate number of male police officers that also believe that women's rights are not human rights is a problem. So more women police officers. We also need more women magistrates and judges. Then we need improved and more human rights training for the police and the magistrates and judges. But crucially, and it is really important that we don't overlook this, really important, the police budget is lacking in a crucial component, which is that it does not include budget for forensic kits.
Right.
And so even if a police man or woman has the best of intention, the absence of the forensic kit to collect, preserve, and utilize the evidence is not there. And we saw a case recently where somebody came out and was saying something about statute of limitation. If
Not the fact that he did not do it.
Right.
If the means had existed to collect, preserve, and utilize the evidence, they won't be saying such nonsense.
Right.
And it is really crucial because every time the police brings the budget to the National Assembly, the police needs to be reminded and say, look, this your budget proposal does not include provisions for forensic kits. And if we are all in agreement that sexual violence against women is one of the most dastardly forms of violence, how can the police prosecute without the forensic kit? Please, IG, go back, correct the budget, and bring it back before it can be passed. And this raises again the question of representation.
You have raised a big question. Do we even all agree that the police needs to have this kit? Do they have the training to understand how critical this is?
Well, I'm sure all of us here agree.
We at this table all
right.
agree, but would ask you at home if you also agree with us. I'll be after this break. We'll be taking your calls. Remember, you can leave us your comments on WhatsApp. The number is 08095975805. Today is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and the theme for 2019 is Orange the Word, Generation Equality Stands Against Rape. We'll be talking more about this with our guests in the studio. We have Harriet Thompson. She's a British Deputy High Commissioner. And we also have Quadry, who produced a fantastic movie called Chat Room that addresses the issue of sexual violence against women and girls. Rotimi Sankore is also here. We'll go out for a short break. Join us again just in a moment. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sharif Quadry.
From your number one talk news and sports station. This is the Morning Crossfire with Wemimo and Sheriff. your number one talk news and sports station. This is the Morning Crossfire with Wemimo and Sheriff.
We're back. It's 99.3 Nigeria Info, and today's International Day for the Elimination. Oh,
apologies for that.
I'm so sorry. It's the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and it's a United Nations Day. And the theme for this year is Orange, the word generation equality stands against rape. We've put a lot of conversation on the table, and we would like to hear from you in a few moments. The phone lines are even buzzing. I'll give you the phone numbers you can call in a moment. And our WhatsApp number is also full of messages. I'll be reading out some of them. You can also reach us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. We have Harriet Thompson here in the studio. She is the British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos. And we also have Peju Fadirepo, who produced a movie called Chat Room, which addresses the issues of sexual violence against women and girls. Rotimi Sankore is also here in the studio. For a few minutes, we can take your comment, and here are the numbers.
Call us on 01-277-0993, 01-277-1993, 01-277-2993, and 01-277-3993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
Yes, we are listening. Let me start off with WhatsApp, and we have a comment here from Bioye from Yaba, who says, most guys say the outfit a woman wears encourages rape. And he's saying, is a movie out? Chat room?
Yeah, it's to be in cinemas Q1 2020.
First quarter 2020. We also have a comment here from what's your name? No name, but it's a good message, so I'll read it. It says, good morning, Wemimo and Sheriff. I remember when I was in secondary school back in the 90s, one weekend I visited a classmate in his home. I saw his father beating his mom, and I asked him why his father beat his mom, and he said, that is how my daddy beats my mom if his food is not ready on time. It says, I think parents need to orientate their words to respect every human they come in contact with at every point in their lives. By that, sensitization may be slow, but it will help in curbing violence against women and girls. We also have another one from Mark, reaching us from Okota, says, one major source of violence and discrimination against women are rooted in our holy books. Says that's a source of indoctrination Rotimi spoke about. So our religious institutions and scholars need to do more to change people's minds. Remember that our constitution borrowed some of these things from our holy books. Well,
from Facebook, Dr. Mrs. Sima Olibara, she's watching us on Facebook from Owerri, and she says violence against women continues to be the reality of women's lives even today. It continues unabated both inside and outside the home. Most cultures devalue women, relegate them to the background, and treat them as second-class citizens. Prejudices against us are deep-rooted. The violence comes in form of domestic violence, rape, death, sexual harassment, child abuse, physical assaults, and anti-attacks on poor women, and anti-abortion terrorism. Violence against women in any form is a crime. Shall we continue to keep silent and allow certain behavior and attitudes to go unchallenged? With a question mark. Dr. Mrs. Nmaolibara, thank you for that message.
On Twitter, Yusuf Akiwale seems to proffer a solution. I don't know if this is good. It says a jail term of 9 years should be meted, I'm sure you mean, on husbands who beat up their wives. Says I just suggest this because of what children tend to learn from their actions. Says he saw a boy aged 6 with his neighbor. Then I heard him saying, if I grow up and marry, I will beat my wife if she fumbles. That means he's just 6, and he's saying this is already ingrained in his mind. So Harriet, let's talk about the laws again. Do you think we should be looking at more sentencing for offenders?
So, I mean, I think it's a combination, right, of looking at the laws that we have and thinking about what is allowable under those laws and taking that as a starting point. So a situation where it's okay for a man to beat his wife, that's even before you get to thinking about sentencing. Those are the things that we need to check first. But it goes back to what Rotimi, I think it was saying about the need for women to be properly represented at all stages along the legislative process. So in the lawmaking bodies, there need to be far more women than we have currently, and I was really disappointed to see the number of women in the National Assembly at all levels actually fall in February's elections. But so we need to get that right at the outset, and then in the police force, through the judiciary, but we need not to assume that women are necessarily going to understand all of these issues from the outset. We need education for people at all of those levels as well. I've heard some great things about what the police are doing. Actually, there are some really good sexual violence referral teams, including here in Lagos. But when those people get the great training and are able to perform those roles, they stay there for too short a period before they're moved on to traffic duties or whatever it might be next.
Right.
So let's make use of those people who are trained already, get them to train more people so that we're raising the numbers of people who know how to deal with these. So I do think it's about the law, it's in part about sentencing and really giving the message that this is serious, but also it's about application of those laws.
But one of the things that, have been put forward as to the way to changing the narrative is social reengineering. And your movie is one big aspect of that. And I'm particularly coming to you because of the space from which you operate from. The people in the entertainment business, our music, you hear the content of their lyrics and it demeans women, it devalues women. You see their music videos, the same thing. The other day, a musician was seen in broad daylight with women, naked women, and all of these things, they tell the negative story, negative sides of the value of women in our society. Go to the movie aspect as well. Nobody wants to tell the real story, the real societal problems, such as gender-based violence that women day to day in Nigeria will have to go through. How do we make sure that we begin first with the opinion molders, those in your space, to put the collective interest first in their work? You have done a great job, and my fear is, if it's not entertaining, will people, is that the mentality of those in your space, that if it's not entertaining, that you might not recoup your investment?
Of course, definitely. So it's show business, so there's a business to it, and people want to make, everybody wants to make money. It's just that there has to be a balance to all of these things. So I was speaking to someone the other day and I said that there's no amount of money that can pay for the virginity of one woman.
Right.
So you have to be able to balance the moral compass with money making. Unfortunately, in my industry, we have people with different schools of thought. I do not agree with parading naked women, because you are hurting and damaging the psyche of these children. Children watch this and they are not supposed to be exposed to this kind of content. With reference to stopping, and I think it will take a lot of moral suasion, discussions, engagement, like we're currently having, and it will be a process, because I think you can still make money. You do not have to be naked,
right,
to make money. It's just that the psyche has to be in a place where you have to understand that while making money, I should not further damage the future, which is what we're unconsciously doing.
Harriet, let's take it up a bit. So let's look at universally acceptable policies of tackling issues of rape and gender-based violence. What examples can you give us, I think Nigeria should be taking from?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think we see sort of negative examples and positive examples the world over. If we look at some of the stories that have come out of countries like India, where similarly there seems to be an acceptance among some parts of the culture that it's okay for men to rape women, and we've seen actually the increasing outcry against that. The same is happening in Nigeria, and Pedro, in the break you mentioned those examples of women in Abuja who've been out in nightclubs and have simply been arrested, as far as I can tell, because of the club they were in or the skirt they were wearing.
Someone thought they were wearing too short a skirt.
Exactly. And again, we saw people come out and protest against that. So I think the more examples of those sorts of things happening, the better. Across the world, we do see things changing, and I think the UN effort is part of what's driving those changes. So what's acceptable in terms of legislation, in terms of how that legislation is then implemented, and in terms of social norms, that is changing. But it's slow, and I think things like us being able to talk about it this morning on radio, things like Pedro's film, which appeals to the broad population. This isn't a film for people who already care about these issues. This is a film for anybody to go and see and be entertained by. The point is, it's making a positive impact on people's lives rather than the music videos with naked women that are having a negative impact around how people think about women.
Well, let's remind you of how full the 16 days would be, and would on the Morning Crossfire touch on some of the important themes for the year. The 16 days have activities lined up. Today is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. November 29th is International Women Human Rights Defenders Day. December 1, I'm looking forward to this, is World AIDS Day. That's HIV/AIDS. December 5 is International Volunteer Day for Economic and Social Development. December 6, anniversary of the Montreux Massacre, which is observed as a National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women in Canada. And it all culminates on December 10th, International Human Rights Day, and the anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Rotimi, before we head to the phones, let's stay with rape, which is a theme, the underlying theme for this year. And I'm interested in marital rape, which, like we mentioned earlier, has no footing in our laws. So again, it comes to the point of men believing that they own you. And someone made a comment on WhatsApp about religion also backing this up. So we have, let's say, 3 strong institutions: the law, we have culture, then we have religion. Looks like a very huge brick we have to climb here.
First, please, if you permit me, one of the messages on WhatsApp said something about dress. It's important just to address that very quickly. So first, let's be clear. Even in countries where women are covered from head to toe, a lot of women are raped.
Yeah.
So the idea that it is what a woman wears, please, anybody that has that thought in your head, please perish the thought straight away. 2, we have seen scenarios in which babies are raped. What is sexy there? Is it the nappy or what? Look, if people are criminally minded, we should not start finding excuses about what anybody is wearing. We've seen scenarios in which grandmothers are raped. Nuns in church that have committed their lives to religion suffer sexual assault, sometimes from men within the same church, sometimes from outside. So please, anybody that suggests to you that it was what somebody was wearing, please, no, reject. The question you were asking about marital rape, the whole thing about ownership and commoditization, that you purchase. This is why things like first child marriage thrive, because once the state endorses, allows, looks the other way, and minors are captured in the ways we described earlier for sexual and domestic labor exploitation, it's a very thin line between that and grown-up women. And once that commoditization tars women in general, honestly, if you are unfortunate enough to encounter a man that thinks you are a commodity and you are to be owned, even if you have 3 PhDs,
right,
the person's orientation is going to be that you are there for sexual and domestic labor exploitation. And you can't say no You can't say you are feeling unwell. You can't say you don't feel like. The person will still feel that your main job there is to clean up, to wash, to cook,
the other room,
and so forth like that. So I mean, this is the real problem. And until the state, is rescued from patriarchal values like that, the concept of marital rape would, I mean, even that in itself is, it sounds like an oxymoron, because rape is rape.
Right.
Whether marital or otherwise.
Right.
I understand why people use it, because it's used to describe a situation in which the man feels that because you are married, you have an obligation to always say
and
yes.
You can never say no.
And you can never say no. And sometimes it's also used as a tool to humiliate, subjugate, and just generally destroy you.
Let me read some comments from WhatsApp before we head again to the phones. BJ is sending us a message from Zambia. Thank you for joining us. It says the most recent case of Fatoimbo versus Dakolo brought out some of the flaws in bid to handle gender-based violence, especially against women. It says he was so surprised when women celebrated the case being knocked out because he was statute barred, and they failed to understand that this does not mean that he is innocent or guilty. Most Nigerians need to understand that rape knows no bound, no class. Fantastic one.
Some of the women celebrating, by the way,
some of them did.
Are also in that person's church.
Steve from Ijaniki says, I wonder how far this struggle against violation against women can go with the type of leadership we have presently. Your message is long. Let me move this on. It says, we expected a very speedy action to be taken when the only woman in the Kogi senatorial race was molested in the open glare of the police and other matters, and nothing happened. Another woman was burnt to death in the most brutal manner, and the first thing that came from the president was a congratulations message to the governor. So he's saying that we need to do better. Eze from Lekki says, I've been married for 9 years. And I've been the one going to the market to buy groceries and supplies. My friends and cousins have been saying I'm spoiling my wife and teaching her to be disrespectful. It says, but guess what? The reverse is the case. King Raf from Meleko here says, rapist. That was a very funny message. I mean, groceries that you'd all share. I mean, it says we need orientation concerning sexual harassment. Like what Rotimi said, we need more women in our law enforcement organizations. I pray this topic will be treated every day in our radio and TV stations.
Indeed. Let's get to the phone lines right now. Let's see who is here. Good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Mr. Williams. I'm calling from Solary.
Williams.
Okay, concerning the domestic violence issue we're talking about, I'd like to contribute.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Currently, as I'm speaking to you right now, my mom is undergoing that same problem. And my dad, actually, I can't just imagine that you will tell your wife to bring the bed that you guys bought and let her sleep on the floor. That is how terrible it is. She has gone to the Ministry of Justice to report. She has gone to the police, but all they say is that let her just take it like that. That she's our
No. She, can you send me a message? I'm really interested in stuff like this. Can you leave me a message on Twitter?
Okay, ma'am.
Please do that this morning, okay?
And currently, he's a former staff of Nigeria Airways.
He's a what?
And he's a former staff of Nigeria
Don't worry,
Airways.
we'll talk about it. Just leave me a message inbox on Twitter. I'll follow up on this, all right?
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
good morning.
Yeah, my name is Austin.
Welcome, Austin. Where are you calling from, Austin?
I'm calling from Maryland.
Go on, Austin.
Yeah, thank you very much for the topic. Growing up as a kid, I watched seeing my dad beating my mom. It took me a long time to get closer to my dad because of that. I have 3 elder sisters and I have younger sisters, about 4 younger sisters. I am a quiet, calm guy, but if you dare touch my younger sister or my senior sister, I will change it for you. I always defend them because of my dad, the way he did when he was born. He just now try to get closer to my dad. Well, after I lost my mother like 6 years ago, if not, because of that, I don't go closer to my dad. I love my mom because of that, because she cannot fight back. Thank you very much.
I am so
you,
sorry
Austin.
to hear that. So sorry. Remember, we have a line for female callers 012770993 for the ladies who want to join us. 012770993. The other numbers 012771993, 2993, and 3993, and numbers that male callers can call.
Right. Hello, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Joseph. I'm calling from Ikeja.
Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you. So my own contribution is, I recall growing up, my dad was always the one writing the grocery list and going to the market. But anytime he goes to the market, he always tells us how the women, they are always calling him woman rapper or a stingy man because he's the one going to the market. And then my mom is at home. So I believe the issue, part of the issue that is at hand is the fact that like women too don't understand certain things. They believe that it's normal to be abused. And because of that, they accommodate all sort of abuse without any, pushback whatsoever. So I believe the shift where if we're trying to achieve a mindset shift, it should also be focused mainly on the women first, because once women know their rights, they will know how to avoid situations that are compromising for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
too
much.
for calling.
Fantastic point
Appreciate
there.
that. Victoria from Facebook says the Bible is the worst culprit in the mistreatment of women. Majority of our males justify their actions against women by always seeking recourse to quotations from the so-called Holy Book, which incidentally was written by men for their convenience. That's from Victoria. Festus Sokunlola says, dressing is part of provocation to rape and should not be
Just stop it.
rude
Just
as
stop it.
suggested.
Was that fellow listening? We
No,
just
it's
addressed
not.
that
Please
matter
stop
just a few
repeating
minutes
this.
ago.
It's absolutely not.
What are we saying about men here, right? They see a lady in a short skirt
Right.
and they can't control themselves. I mean, we need to give men some credit as well. Come on, everyone's responsible for their own behaviour.
Right.
Right, actually. Ejetabo Joyce says, while I do not agree with violence against women in all ramifications, making a special law outside the existing laws on assault is equally not supportable. Violence against women must be separated from husband disciplining his wife. Once we mix this concept,
What?
we are on a journey to destroying our families and thus the society.
What?
So that means that the men also need some disciplining, right?
Right,
Because we're both human beings.
right,
Right?
right.
And then we both feel pain.
And no one owns each other.
Nobody owns
So
it.
if the
What does this
What?
speak to you about the mindset of a millennial in Nigeria? With all of these messages
Disciplining
that
his
we've read
wife.
so far.
So the millennial, they have a mixed mindset. Some of them believe what we believe, and some of them unfortunately grew up in this situation and they don't know any other way.
I
They
think
don't know any other way.
This category of people that for whatever reason
Oh.
believe that women are commodities. That's where this comes from.
Yeah.
That sit down there,
Dis-
don't move,
disciplining
don't go
his
out.
wife.
If you
like
go
a
out, I will show
child,
you
like
pepper.
a child. In
Look.
fact, if you beat your child, you could be charged for abuse. But let's take some comment from Twitter. Okushaga here says, "Good topic when we more Nigerian feel. Let us still try to come out to talk about abuse meted out to men. Men are in pains, but cannot speak out. If you're one of such, please reach out to me on Twitter. Whatever form of abuse it is, there's a recourse. So please don't keep silent." King Amusu on Twitter says, "This issue must be tackled seriously because many women and girls get killed every day. Here in South Africa, it says it's worse, and the numbers are spiking in South Africa." If we head back to the phone, can we take one more
All
call?
right, let's just take a few more before we wrap up. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Ade.
Ade, welcome. Where are you reaching us from?
I'm calling from Isheri Oceanside.
All right, please go ahead with your comment.
This issue of a woman or no woman, before I'm a guilty of this thing, I can tell you.
Okay.
Before I got married, if I saw anybody beat a wife or something, I called him a madman. But when I get married, I now know that it's not easy. But since I begin to hear about all things like that, there's nothing my wife can do. I will just be looking at her.
instead of me to beat her, I'll just be looking at her. But I can tell you, women, they can frustrate.
Men can also be frustrating. It's a human thing.
And I've also heard before a woman, we're having this conversation some time ago, and a woman said that she enjoyed being beaten by her husband.
Now she needs to see a doctor.
Yeah,
she needs to see.
It showed that the husband loves her.
She needs to see a psychiatrist. It's a mental issue.
So the issue of marriage, some people need marriage counseling.
Some people need to see psychiatrists.
Actually, some people need to see a psychiatrist.
Or counselors.
And for people that have grown up in an environment
Abusive.
where abuse has been, of course they need help.
Harriet, your final thoughts on this as we go home?
Well, so the thing that strikes me actually, and I know there's only a couple of minutes left, is that we haven't talked about the impact of sexual violence in conflict on women, which is such a huge issue, including right here in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast of the country, where so many people, particularly women and children, are displaced. So many women and girls have been abducted by Boko Haram, they've been raped, and then they come back to their communities, they're rejected by their communities. Maybe it happens again in the IDP camps from the people who are meant to be protecting them. It's a huge issue. It's one where the British government is putting in a lot of support, both with the survivors and with the communities, to try to encourage reintegration and acceptance. But it's something that we need to remember as we go through these 16 days.
Thank you very much, Harry. We really must go now. But thank you all for joining. The phone lines are still buzzing. This conversation continues all day on Nigeria Info FM. We have 16 days of activism, so this conversation is coming back on your radio. Harriet Thompson is a British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Quadry Faderico produced a fantastic movie, Chatroom. It will be available first quarter 2020, so watch out for this. Thank you, Quadry.
Thank you very much.
Rotimi, thank you. We also thank everyone who's helped us with the production today. Tosia Kiride, Yvonne Haifor, and Zainab Yakin. We'll be back with more conversations tomorrow. Remember to join us at 6 a.m. That's when the show starts. If you join us at 8, you miss 2 hours. If you join at 6, well, you enjoy 3 full hours. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. I am Wemimo Adewuni.
And I am Sharif Quadry.